Okay, this is lesson 1 of module 3B, part 1, the most famous ratio of all, circumference of a circle. Because I've already done this in class, I figured I would just leave the definitions so that you could read them on your own instead of me writing them and taking the time to do that. So these are the definitions for radius. The distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Radius is half the diameter. Diameter, the distance across the circle. Going through the center, the diameter is twice the radius. The third one is the circumference, the distance around the circle, which is what we will be dealing with today. An area, the amount of room inside the circle, which I did not, which I did have on the board, but let me show you. And it's the room inside the circle here. Okay. Now moving forward, as you can see, just talking again about these. Okay. C is the center of the circle here. The distance between C and B is our radius, which is R right here. If I extend it from here to the other side and make this point here A, then this entire thing here becomes our diameter, or D. So the diameter is twice or 2 times as long as the radius. Okay. Next. The ratio of the circumference to its diameter is always the same for any circle. The value of the ratio is the circumference divided by the diameter. In other words, I can take any cylinder, measure around that cylinder, and then take the measurement across and divide the two. What we call that, believe it or not, is that famous ratio, and that number is pi. And it's represented by our symbol here. So since the circumference is a little greater than 3 times the diameter, pi is a number that is a little greater than 3. We use the symbol pi to represent a special number. Pi is a non-repeating, or non-terminating, and non-repeating decimal. And mathematicians use the symbol for pi to approximate representations as more convenient ways to represent pi. Now, other ways that they represent it is 3.14 or 22 over 7. Now, we have found that the number 22 over 7 no longer really represents pi because it does end, though they still use it. For us, the formula that we will use for circumference is C equals pi d. Now, there is another one that we will be using, just not at this point. So let's use and find the circumference of a few things. The first one that we are going to be using, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing this. So we're going to put a line down our paper here. And because New York State uses this, we are also going to leave our answers in terms of pi. So the first thing is I always would like you to find what the diameter, if they give you the diameter, find the radius. If they give you the radius, find the diameter. So you always have both. So in this first question, it does say the following circles are not drawn to scale. Find the circumference of each circle. So in this first one, the diameter is 21. Our radius is half of that 21. or 10.5. Now, we don't need the radius, but I do want you to find that, because when we get into more things like tomorrow and the area, you're going to need to know the diameter and the radius, because you will be given both things. So here we always write our formula, then replace our formula with the things that we need. And in this case, we need the diameter, which is 21. So pi times 21. Now we always use the pi key on our calculator. So in this case, when I multiply that together, we should get 65.973 44573, and we always label it with whatever the label is, and in this case it's CM. To leave it in terms of pi, in New York State, we'll do this quite a bit on the exam, especially on the multiple choice part of the exam. We have our formula. We replace D with our diameter, and you always put the number first, especially when you leave it in terms of pi. So I'm going to replace that D with 21 and then put pi after it. You leave it in terms of pi. In other words, it means leave pi in your answer. And then we just label it with centimeters, and we're done. It is that. That's all you need to do. So our next question . Our radius is 35/2. And here we do have to find that diameter. So our diameter, we have to multiply by 2, because our radius is 2 times, or diameter is 2 times the radius. So that equals 35. So now we write our formula. We replace our diameter with 35. Remember, whatever the letter is, that's what you're replacing. D is 35, so D is 35. So when I put that into multiply, we get 109.9557429. And it's meters. To leave it in terms of pi, it's our formula. And then replace and leave it in terms of pi and just label. And that's all you really need to do. So we have a couple more questions. For here, our diameter is 91. So our radius is half of that, or 45.2, or 45.5, sorry. So our formula, and then replace pi times 91. And that is going to equal for us, if we put it in the calculators, 285.8849.315 feet. Leave it in terms of pi. We just put 91 pi and then feet. Now the next two questions are going to be word problems, which we'll see quite a bit of these, okay? And it says the radius, excuse me, the radius of a paper plane is 11.7 centimeters. Find the circumference to the nearest tenth. Well, okay. Well, if our radius is 11.7, our diameter, oops, sorry about that. Let me erase that. Is 2 times the 11.7, which is 23.4. We're going to write our formula and replace. So pi times 23.4. So we're going to put that big old long number in. We have to have that. That is what we call a connecting line. So it's 513.268.09. Now we have to have that line. It's considered a connecting line that we have to have before we round. Now we can round to the nearest tenth, which would be 73.5 centimeters. Now here it says the radius is the same, and it says find the circumference to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so I would just take this number. So it's the circumference is still 73.513268909, sorry. And now let's round it to the nearest hundredth, which would be right here. So it would be 73.51 centimeters. Okay. And that ends part 1 of our lesson for the most famous ratio of all.